the Heed the Call podcast. Are thinking about getting that earring, but are worried you'll laugh.
Tough decision to make there, Mark, and I hope you make the right one, because I think what you should do ultimately is go with your heart and not what you think people will say.
I mean, look, there's a lot of projection on this show. I've got a terrible cold, so I apologize to the listener. But the idea that I'm going to march out of here after the show and get an earring is, it's fiction. It's a fictional novel. Like I won't be doing that. Just to let you know. Can we clear that up?
It is the Week 11 preview of Heed the Call with Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler. And if it is the Thursday preview show, that means we have esteemed regs here. Jourdan Rodrigue and Money Mike Dugar from The Athletic. Money Mike back from his honeymoon on Jamaica, and we learned before the show, this man does not swim. This man is afraid of heights. This man is afraid of so many things. So what did you actually do when you were on the island, Mike?
I got my first massage. That was great. It also put in perspective how weird Deshaun Watson is, man. But also, I laid by the infinity pool, and I watched some illegal streams of sports because I am an addict. And there were some good games last week. And then I just spent a lot of time with my wife, which is great. We have conflicting schedules and a 1.5-year-old. So just the time for us to do nothing was perhaps better than any excursion event we could have booked, just because we don't get a ton of time just to be husband and wife or mom and dad a lot of the time. So that was great. Very much needed. And then look at this. I'm right back at work.
Look at it. And we missed you last week, and we can't wait to get back on the gambling tip with Money Mike later in today's episode.
We didn't gamble last week because of no Mike.
No,
so
I
that
think
was,
Jourdan might have
a tough
had something vaguely gambling a nugget, maybe. Am I correct, Jourdan? Was there something at some type of Money Mike fill-in last week, or am I mistaken?
No, I don't even know what the words he uses are when he talks about gambling. I did hear, actually, Mike, I have to ask you, true or false, I heard a rumor, you did pick out a single shark tooth earring for Mark in the gift shop on your way back.
I tried. They didn't have any, Mark.
I like the idea of you going on your honeymoon and buying me a gift. That feels unlikely. But at one point, I think it was after the election, we sort of said, hey, would you mind if we came down to Jamaica and joined you? And you were like, yeah, come on. Just honeymoons are the last life situation where you want random guys and friends to come hang out with you. So while I appreciated the response, I didn't find it to be accurate. You didn't really want us to come hang out with you and your wife on your honeymoon, I'd imagine.
Well, I think it would have been a great time and a nice.
Maybe.
We were traveling on election day, so just some community would have been nice on that Tuesday while we were traveling. I'm sure a lot of people probably can attest to that. We were stuck in Newark for a day too on election day because of a canceled flight. So we definitely could have used some company as we just shuffled into the Newark Airport Marriott for a night.
And if you do want to know Mark's real-time thoughts on the election, check out the I Dream in Red newsletter.
I don't know why this is our
Patreon.
Product, and you continue to pound this ridiculous, another false narrative out of left field that is taking away from our Patreon product. So,
No, Mark, it's out of right field.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a zinger.
I can tell this is going to be a good ep. All right, good week, a great week. There are games this week that fascinate me and really. I think is going to teach us a lot about the upper echelon of the league as we head toward the home stretches. As Mike Francesa famously said, the season doesn't begin until after Thanksgiving. Well, we're getting close to Thanksgiving, and these games, I think, will really set the table on that front. So let's dig in. Week 11, Heed in that call. Oh, by the way, great job. Shout out to Dave Damashek. Who joined us on the Wednesday show for our Thanksgiving. It was kind of like a draft of a Thanksgiving table. And then who is it, Justin, who put together an artistic rendering of the table?
That would be Twitter user Kiwi Bill in Oz at NZTIGERIN.
Okay.
Oz.
That just
Yes.
rolls
Okay,
off the
very good.
tongue. That's how you
does.
brand yourself. That just rolls off the tongue.
And Money Mike, you should know that Jameis Winston will say grace at our Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's a good choice. That is although I see Mike Irvin at the table, I
Yep,
believe.
he'd be good.
Yeah.
That
Mike's
would
there.
be, I mean, you want to talk about 1A and 1B in terms of delivering the grace at dinner. That is two excellent choices right there.
Yeah, and well, we have Mike there mostly because we're losing recipes, and he's gonna.
Oh, that's
and he's
great.
going to make sure that we keep those intact. You know, I don't know, Jourdan. Mike, not Mike Dugar. Mike Irvin had that take about we're losing recipes. You're a woman. You're a feminist. I know. I don't know that for sure, but
Where
I
are you
feel like
going
you
with
are.
this?
An assumption?
What do you think about Michael Irvin's take about we're losing recipes?
That's like a popular phrase, is it not? Like,
I don't know.
I think it's a popular phrase. I don't really understand the question.
Do
But
you
yes, I am
understand
a
my question, Mark?
feminist.
You want to help me out
Wait.
with this one?
Well, yeah, I think what Mike and I don't speak for Mike, but what Mike I think is suggesting is that
Mike Irvin or Mike Dugar?
No,
no one's
not
ever called
Mike
him Mike
Dugar.
Irvin before, by the way.
Mike Dugar almost bought me a tooth earring. So of course I'm not speaking for Mike Dugar, but like the idea that Michael Irvin was bringing up, I believe, and you can tell me, Dan, if you think I'm wrong because
Yeah.
you're the authority, but like that as we've become more less 1950s like, let me put it that way, that like
Right.
the idea that if you're of a certain gender that you were raised to learn how to cook, 15 to 16
Right, I was
different
I
types of
think,
meals,
Jourdan,
that's
thank you,
gone
Mark.
away.
I appreciate that. I was teeing you up there, Jourdan, because I thought it was perhaps a misogynistic take by the playmaker.
I
and you
would
were going to
agree.
take
Oh no,
him down
I think
a peg.
I think that's a popular phrase that he said.
I think
No,
Harrison
but
Butker
Dan,
at the table
to
would
your-
agree with Mike Irvin. Just saying.
We also have no.
Yes.
You invited no women to your Thanksgiving table, which I did clock. But also, just so we're clear, Dan was just asking me to get in the kitchen and look for said recipes. So just wanted to make sure everyone heard that.
Okay, that's one way to look at it, but
That's fair,
but I
Jourdan.
was hoisted on my own petard there. Let's be honest. Let's just dig into it.
Yeah, you
because I
nailed
gotta
that,
dig
Dan.
myself out. And now let's dig into the games. We'll start with the primetime affairs. And it's one of the games that I cannot wait to watch. Unbelievable. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to SoFi Stadium to face the Los Angeles Chargers. And listen, it's do or die time for the Bengals. And I feel like we've said that before. And they've had games, Jourdan, that have kept their heads above water and put them in position to kind of really dive full on back into the AFC playoff mix. And then they take a step back, and in many times this season, it's been in very painful manner. And multiple times this season against the Ravens, that painful step back occurs. So here we go again. The Bengals in a wide open wild card race in the AFC. But this will not be any layup for them because the Chargers have been arguably the best defense in football. Certainly, I think the most consistent week to week. And if Jim Harbaugh and company could cook something up to neutralize that offensive attack for the Bengals, they may be cooked this season.
Yeah, Jesse Minter has done so much with relatively little, I think, on that defense to build it back up. And yes, Khalil Mack is still playing at a high level, and they have playmakers and all of that. But the ways that they are such a sound defense are all the ways in which the Bengals try to attack you and perhaps potentially can't against this Chargers defense. Particularly, Jamar Chase leading the NFL in yards after the catch per Next Gen Stats. Well, he'll now face this Chargers defense that's allowing the second fewest yards after the catch per catch in the NFL. Those types of little things, they're like foils of each other in so many ways up and down the field. And I haven't doubted the Bengals' ability to score this season. We've seen that. Joe Burrow has played some phenomenal football. But at this point in the season, the Chargers, led by Justin Herbert, who's playing some of the best football for any quarterback in the league right now, they're reaching the apex of their powers at the right time. This is like that slow burn Jim Harbaugh team that suddenly suffocates you and you can't understand what just happened. And like this is what could happen, to the point where after this game, you might start to hear, because it is actually in a window where people will be watching the Chargers, whereas other games this year have not had that, that you might see Justin Herbert start to overtake Joe Burrow in the conversation about who is playing the best football in the league right now, in that quarterback conversation. Other guys obviously are ahead in the MVP race, but Justin Herbert might walk himself into that after this game.
Yeah, I think like if you look at Justin Herbert, like this is not something that I expected in the offseason under Jim Harbaugh, but he is the 5th highest rate of deep passing percentage. Like this is working. And Quentin Johnston, who had been a problematic wide receiver earlier in his career, has been open more than all but 5 other wide receivers in the league, wide open. So that's working. I would say this about the Chargers. Like in the terms of it being an island game, they've beaten Bryce Young, Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler, Jameis Winston, Will Levis, and Gardner Minshew. And so here's your chance to suddenly, I think, emerge as something different on the national stage. And I really can't, before this season, think of a time, Dan, that when we covered football, where the Chargers really beat someone up and really massacred them into the turf. And they've been a soft team for like as long as soft has been a word in the human language to me. And so I want to see them go out and bloody someone and a real opponent. And for me, you could end the Cincinnati Bengals season right now. You could end it. I argued for them to be forked, and I think this is the chance where that could happen. Will it? I don't know. But this is a team that can do weird things. They're a weird team, and I kind of think the Chargers could become a national story if they win this game in an island scenario.
They could use a little bit of juice, the Chargers, and that there's a number of reasons why they seem to lack juice. And I'm not saying that even matters, because it really only matters if you win or lose, and they've won 6 of their 9 games so far this season, and they're set up really well for this game. But the type of ball that they play doesn't exactly like scream for primetime windows and and highlight reels. Like, for instance, you have Justin Herbert, who played another, like Jourdan said, another great game on Sunday. He threw just 18 passes, so he's making them count. But the offense obviously is designed in a way where you're just not going to get that like Dan Fouts or early Herbert type production. Let's hear from Herbert. Here's the other part of it. I want Justin Herbert. And I'll throw it to you off this, Money Mike. I want Justin Herbert to give me some juice himself. I want Justin Herbert to like be the LA quarterback. I don't know if it's in him. And here's a little, and check this out on YouTube, especially. Here's a look behind after their latest win, after they beat the Titans, of Jim Harbaugh almost imploring Justin Herbert to be more interesting to mixed results.
Justin, just talk to us, man. Say something. Say something. Say it.
I've got so much to say and so little time to say it. Great job, everybody.
Mike, give me like a first take, hot take, how that clip tells us why Justin Herbert will never be a champion. No.
I actually enjoy. I like the I guess juxtaposition, between some guys who just like won't shut up, like Michael Parsons, versus guys who just have nothing to say, like the almost in the NBA where you get like the Kawhi Leonards and the Tim Duncans versus the Draymond Greens or the Patrick Beverleys, the guys with podcasts during the year, and the guys who would just shudder at the idea at being on a podcast during their season. So I actually like that from Herbo, and I think
football is completely different than basketball. Sorry.
Oh man, that's a hilarious drop. So actually, I enjoy that from him. I do think last week was a good flashback to the whatever draft had Sewell and Chase in it, because both of them kind of kicked ass in their island games. And I think the Chargers every week that Herbert doesn't die is like a good kind of pushback to that same situation with Neighbors and Joe Alt in this draft. I feel like neither team could have probably gone wrong, but you just see what kicking ass at offensive line does. And I bring that up because when you watch the Chargers, me and the 7 other people that do on a weekly basis, I think it was only 4 of us when they were on ESPN Plus against the Cardinals a few weeks ago.
Generous.
Yeah, no, it really is. When you watch them, sometimes you do feel bad for Justin. Like, he just throws passes of consequence to just the most random cats every week. Like last week, I think he threw like the best ball of his life, and it hit Will Dissly in the hands. I think they lost to the Cardinals. He threw like a double move to Simi Faco, or however you say that guy's name. It's like, you should not be throwing passes of consequence to some of these cats, and he does, and they're dimes every week. And I really am happy that they're getting this primetime game. I believe it got flexed in the primetime too. I really want the world to see, win or lose, what Herbo is dealing with sometimes when he drops back. I'm a big Lightning Lad McConkey guy, but pretty much everyone else, I'm just praying they catch these wonderful passes from Justin. And I actually do love the Chargers in this one to get the Bengals forked next week. I think they'll be done after
There we
this.
go. Dan, I would say that I appreciate, while Money Mike is unfurling his soliloquy, that our producer Justin is like openly smoking a nicotine device. I don't know what's happening there, but it's happening right here on our air. And you know what? I go back to that clip.
Well, now, Justin, you're going to have, because my co-host brought that up, you're going to have to give us a slow motion instant replay of you taking a puff of the peace pipe over there.
Okay, Dan, whatever my job requires, I shall do.
Jourdan, wrap this up before we move.
Yeah, 2 things. 1, Passes of Consequence would be a sick-ass band name. 2,
Oh, yeah.
funky trend noted by Mike and I's colleague Larry Holder, who does great work. The Chargers are 6-0 when they score over 20 points, and they're 0-3 when they don't reach 20 points. But also, they haven't scored outside 20 points. So it's a really interesting, weird trend for them. But yeah, score over 20, they're probably going to win.
And let's see if T. Higgins is playing this game. He's up in the air, but perhaps trending towards returning to the lineup. And that makes a big difference for the Bengals, too. Not ready to quit on Cincinnati. I think they find a way in this game. In the other primetime game, we have the Houston Texans. Where we thought of the Houston Texans in week 1, Sessdog, to where they are now at number 13 in our power rankings, which is, of course, the Twilight Zone. Hard to make any sense of them. And the quarterback. The quarterback's struggling. And it's not just him. There are other elements of this team that are struggling, obviously, including the blocking up front and the injuries in terms of his targets. But he's also making plays that are not what you expect from a player that has shown so much so early in his career. So he's in a slump, and he's got to bail out of it and pick this team up. Perfect matchup here. You go to Dallas. The Cowboys are the worst home team in football. They are on pace, honestly, and I don't have any data to back this up, but I don't need it because I know. They're on pace to be the worst home team in the history of professional football. They lose by 20 to 40 points almost every game in their building. They're winless there. And Cooper Rush or Trey Lance or some combination thereof will be the quarterback tandem. So if the Texans want to get right in this Texas showdown, here it is right now. And if they don't, major red flag for the Houston Texans.
Well, that would be a flowing red flag if they can't handle their business here. I mean,
Gross.
I think part of it is for CJ Stroud, you are a young quarterback and you played so well last year, so the expectations were mountainous. I'm thinking this could be one of a top 5 quarterback, but then suddenly Nico Collins is ripped away from you, Stephon Diggs is ripped away from you, you lost Joe Mixon for a bunch of time. You get Collins back in this game. I want to see what the tangible difference is for this offense. Secondly, though, to come away from that loss to the Lions, this is a young team, young coaching staff. They're newly formed. How do you respond to that utter collapse? Because I think the story of the Texans is a little bit more their defense than their offense. They lead the NFL in pass defenses and interceptions over the last 4 weeks. They take the ball away, and you're walking into a perfect situation in Dallas with a crumbled, destroyed, I think infighting Cowboys team. If you can't go, and what's sweeter than being the Houston Texans and going into Dallas and beating Jerry Jones and his little Nepo baby up in that booth and taking them down on national television, and getting your season back on the level. And so I think we find out who they are. But if they ever were to lose this game, you are right. That's a disaster. They won't. They will win.
Yeah, the Texans defense should wrap this up very, very nicely and put a bow on it in front of Jerry Jones and family and family and family and family and family. And, Mark, it's a great point that you brought up because the Texans secondary, there's, again, we're talking about a team that is a foil of the opposite side. Texans secondary is allowing the third fewest yards of separation per route in the NFL. Well, who is the worst separating team in the NFL right now? The Dallas Cowboys. So this pass defense, Danielle Hunter is just everywhere up front. The first half against Penei Sewell, some of the moves that he put on the best offensive lineman or one of them in this league was just astounding to watch. And I want to go back to CJ Stroud too, because this is as contextual a step back as we've possibly seen in a while for a quarterback, because it's not just that they're failing to protect him and he's missing his pass catchers, but I do think that Bobby Slowick deserves some of the heat as well. And Chris Sims went on Kevin Clark's show earlier this week and talked about the importance, and he's absolutely correct, the importance of how protection is not just guys blocking guys, especially a slide protection team, which means multiple bodies are sliding left to right into different blocks and then isolating another blocker on one side for a mathematical advantage. That means you're not just dude blocking dude, right? You're moving the math around, and the Texans have been figured out in this phase. And Chris Sims did a great job breaking it down, so I won't reiterate what he said, but he basically is saying this scheme is letting down the protection as well. And so getting all of that fixed, this is the perfect opportunity to do this, to get things right and to actually start to build the pieces back up, get healthy, and learn some lessons. We wanted to see the Texans learn some lessons and face some adversity this year, and now they are. So what will they do with it? I'm
not a trench warfare guy, Mike, but I saw that as well, that breakdown of what ails the offense. And in part, it's defenses adjusting, knowing what the Texans like to do, how they like to pull their offensive line in one direction and leave their tackle on an island, and then defense is adjusting and throwing everything out of whack. So now it's time for, your opponent and the league is zagged, and now you got to zig again. And Slowick, like his head coaching, we talked about Connor Orr is putting out his future head coaches article this week. It's out now. Check it out. Slowick better adjust right now, or he's really going to ding himself if he wants one of the big chairs.
Yeah, he is in the cover photo of that article, just so.
Very nice.
Yeah, I had a fun phone call with my homie DJ. Bieneme covers the Texans for ESPN. We were talking about all of that stuff. We were going over some film stuff. We were really just nerding out. I really came back from honeymoon and got right back to nerding. And I think, yes, Slowick is the guy I'm focusing on when I watch the Texans, because he just looks like, and I see something similar happening in Seattle, he just looks like a coordinator who just hasn't done this very long. And that's okay. But you got to remember, these defensive coordinators get paid too. And once you put something on tape, good or bad, these guys will find that weak spot. And it's just hard to hide bad interior line play. There's only so much you can do to hide guys who stink up front. The Texans shuffled their guys, I think, this last week, and it didn't really matter much. Joe Mixon ran it 25 times for like 5 yards or something, and that's why they melted down in the second half too. So I'm really looking at Slowick. Like, teams are just disrespecting him with their plans. They're just like, we know what you're going to do, and we know you guys can't run routes. Teams are just going press man, and Tank Dell disappears. Like, his press man cut-ups in film room every week must be just awful. Like, he must be getting cooked. And so I put a lot of that on the players too, but also OC, man. You got to figure it out. He was a hot name in the hiring cycle last year, but like this year, it's kind of showing the advantage of time on task. So I feel like him versus some of these defensive coordinators, he's been getting his butt whooped, and it's impacting everybody else. So I don't know if this is a good get-right game, because the Cowboys defense isn't very good, but like Zimmer is a vet. Right. So there is some advantage to that. Coordinator matchups matter quite a bit. And I feel like that's low key been one of the most important stories of this season so far.
Dallas is so down bad. If the Texans get beat in this game, it could be full on collapse time in Houston. So keep an eye on it. All right. Before we move on to games we cannot wait to watch, a reminder that the NBA season is in full swing, and Underdog has tons of fun ways to get in on the action with nightly NBA pick'em slates, plenty of discounts and promos all week long, and you can even play against other users with daily tournaments and private drafts where Underdog is giving out over $100,000 every single day.
Football is completely different than basketball. Football is completely
Just download the Underdog app and
Give me a break.
or scan the QR code
this
on your
count
screen.
as an
Sign
actual
up
ad
with the code
for Underdog? I don't think
HTC
that
and
counts.
receive up to
Football is
$1,000
completely different than basketball. Football is completely
in bonus
different than
cash when you deposit for our U.S. audience only. What was that, Mark? I was doing an ad read. It's
Was that an ad? Like, I mean, Underdog, like they're our employer, and so they're saying, please, diligently unfurl like 2 or 3 ad reads during this. Like, does that count? That seemed like not only is a charade being made of me, but of the product itself. So concerning.
You do seem to be more focused on like how you come off as in this, Mark, versus the ad itself. But
little main character syndrome there, Mark.
Okay, well, true. Yeah, okay. Was concerned.
All right, let's get to it. The games we can't wait to watch. And Mark, good job. Apparently, you got into the doc early this week.
Hell yeah.
Jourdan at this point now is writing notes. Almost, I can't tell if she's mocking you in the doc or she's legitimately proud of you. Jourdan, do you want to read it? Do you have it in front of you?
I don't have.
Okay, I'll read
I
it.
do.
It says, Mark,
Yeah.
I want to be proud of you, but be honest, M dash. Did Justin put your initials in here, JR? Because you grabbed Ravens at Steelers, which is the matchup of the week. Kudos to you, sir.
No, I diligently, in a professional manner, jumped into the documentary. I don't know, Dan, you, in an atypical fashion, didn't even, Justin had to ask you this morning to
Totally
go
forgot, yeah.
pick a game.
Totally
Well, what
whipped
happened
on it.
there?
Just a bad job by me. Just a bad job by me. And I'll take the heat. I'll take the heat.
Well, we're a team.
I was proud. But also slightly suspicious because there was a point earlier this year where you were in the dock early, but it wasn't actually you. You were
Right.
directing Justin to
Right.
put your initials on a game.
Scandalous.
So I was just, checking
That's
all
open.
boxes
That's
here.
open for ripe critique. I understand that. This was a different
It
situation.
does feel like Jourdan just has her eyes on you at all times, Mark, in a way that, I don't know, it's almost like she's your legal guardian on some level or your life coach. You know what I mean?
I need both.
That's a dark thought.
I need both. I did pick Ravens. Do you want me to talk about Ravens at Steelers?
Yeah,
Or
we should probably
going
talk
first?
about the football game, yeah.
I wrote a little, so this is such a treasure. We just had Shaq on our show, and he kind of got me amped up for this. So I wrote a little thing about how I feel about this matchup. Now, of course, the Ravens were the Browns, and so it's always sort of weird for me that this exists at all. But here's what I think. Like imagine if you had a big, old aunt. Do you guys say aunt or aunt? That's a very.
I say aunt.
I say aunt. I don't know. But is anyone different?
I say aunt.
I think I usually go with auntie now that I think about
Auntie.
it.
Auntie
okay.
it's out there in the culture too. Mark, I know you're an aunt guy, which always throws me off.
I do say
Disturbs me.
aunt. I'd say both. But well, let's say imagine you have a big old aunt or aunt. Aunt Ginny,
Or auntie.
okay? Or auntie, but let's say it's Aunt Ginny, okay? And she comes around the front yard. You're in the middle of the country somewhere, and she comes around one Sunday morning. She's super hammered. Super hammered. Okay, her big arms coming out of her overalls. Her hands are muddy. She's dropping F-bombs, and her trauma-filled nucleus is shining. And she
this
comes
a
right up
Zaptig
on your
woman?
porch. What?
Is this
You have a
woman
question?
Zaftig? Yeah, is she Zaftig?
Yeah, we'll get to that. She definitely is. She's dropping F-bombs. She's all over the place. She's hammered. And she comes right up onto your porch, and she takes Cousin Velma by the ponytail and rips her
like
onto
where
the
this is
yellow
going.
grass and starts kicking her ass. Repeated kicks to the belly and chin. Aunt Ginny is wildly amped on brown liquor and just won't stop pounding away at Cousin Velma. But then Velma rolls her big body out of the attack and manages to grab Aunt Ginny by the back pocket of her overalls. And Ginny, being super hammered, she has shaky footing, and she comes tumbling down this massive mountain of flesh and blood. And Cousin Velma starts unleashing fists on the face of Aunt Ginny, unholy blows to the visage of a 230-pound angry dame who showed up muddy and drunk to the yard. And a gang of teenage boys on their bicycles ride up to cheer it on. "Hit that big lady," one boy yells at Cousin Velma. "She's a big old broad. You better keep swinging," says another. "Yeah, that woman's a real big one," the third teen says to the others. "America is a beautiful place. where all this can happen, and this is how I feel visually about the Ravens at Steelers. That's really all I have to say about this game. Like, this is what these teams are. They're just like two relatives beating each other up in a yard.
Jourdan, you want to unpack that for us?
I don't think I have the time in the day to fully unpack that. Mark, I'm really sorry for whatever happened to you with some morbidly obese Midwestern woman in your past. But it seems like there's some things to talk about there, you know? I'm stunned, guys.
I mean, you jumped into the document and teed us up in a totally bizarre way. So I'm going to try to steer it to a football conversation that here we go. And I don't want to step on it because I have a fearless prediction that ties into this game. But Lamar Jackson, Mike, has historically not done very well against Mike Tomlin. A lot of people are talking about that. And if there's one season where Lamar Jackson could be, Tomlin proof or anything proof, it might be this season. What do you think about this matchup? Or are the Steelers on such a heater right now that it won't matter?
No, I definitely think it should be a good game, by the way. I'm happy for Russ that he's getting a chance to show what he can do. And that
that's a good question, Mike. Like, honestly, like, Russ as well as anyone. As anyone on the beat or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure Ciara knows him better, for instance.
Differently.
And Future's son. But, like...
Cue the Jim Nance music.
Yeah, but how do you see a difference even from a distance? Like, do you think Russ has been humbled? Do you think he's any different than he was? Do you think this is surprising him that he's had this renaissance? Like, what's your Russ take on like this little renaissance right now?
Renaissance is great. I haven't been around him enough or talked to enough people around him to know if he's been humbled per se. I do think he's smart enough to realize that he doesn't have the same benefit of the doubt that he had in Seattle, right? There's not posters of him hosting a Lombardi in the Steelers building like there is, there's not the where do they play, Heinz Field or something? Like that's not
sure.
Oh yeah, whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
That's not the house that Russ built, so to speak, the way Lumen Field kind of is, and I think he's smart enough, I don't know if humble's the word, to realize that and know that, like, hey man, you got to be one of the dudes and you got to perform like it's a what have you done for me lately building for him. Not like Seattle's like, oh, look at what I've done. Seattle literally has video boards right now that loop all day showing highlights of Russell Wilson's era of football, and the Steelers don't have that. And Russ is still playing the same way. I don't think his play suggests any level of humility. He still holds the ball probably longer than he should, but he still also has that superpower, which is why I never really questioned why Mike Tomlin benched Justin Fields for Russell Wilson. It's very simple. He throws the ball better. He's the quarterback. You throw the ball better, I'm going to put you in there. And you see that every freaking Sunday when he throws a moon ball, and it's often the difference maker in the game somehow. So I am happy for him because I do think he was playing his way out of the Hall of Fame in his post-Seattle years very rapidly, it felt like. Now I feel like this is a legacy-saving season. As long as he just didn't stink for the rest of his career, I do think he can be known as one of the best in the history of football, i.e. being in the Hall of Fame. I actually still like the Ravens in this one, largely because of what I feel like it was very necessary for Marlon Humphrey to kind of go on that little spiel last week where he was like, yeah, we're winning, but we kind of suck on my side of the ball, and we've got to fix that. And that's a level of self-awareness I feel like teams don't often express publicly, but it's necessary. We can see when you stink even when you win. Like, it's very clear. The Texans are a good example of that. They got negative point differential. So I do think this is probably going to be a get-right game for the Ravens defense, hopefully, as long as they just limit the number of moon balls they give up. Because that really is how Russ is killing teams. Ain't nothing new.
It needs to be. Like, it's like Kyle Hamilton is also, he had an ankle injury last week, and I think that is huge to see if he plays or not. Mike Sando's ears are ringing because we've mentioned him multiple times, but he had an article this week on The Athletic about, I like this, it was the QB betrayal index. And it's like Lamar Jackson he had as his number one quarterback, but he had the Ravens defense and special teams as his 32nd ranked collective unit. And so you're trying to win games if you're Lamar Jackson with a defense that's betrayed you. And if this team ever fell in, over the course of less than a month to the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, it changes for me the way I think about the Ravens. It's like it brings up old suspicions about no matter how well Lamar is playing, like as a team, are we to take you seriously in the AFC as like a top 1 or 2 operation?
I think it's so yeah, that's the Ravens have allowed the 3rd most passing EPA in the NFL so far this season. They are concerning on that level, and I don't see them getting better. You can see that they'll have some fixes down the stretch, but I haven't seen them getting better in that regard. And Russell Wilson, I want to go back to one of Mike's points that he made. Russell Wilson also is veteran enough and savvy to win in the margins in these close games, to make the clutch throw like he did last week, but also to fool the rookie defensive lineman on the hard count to ice out the game. Those little things are going to start to be really, really important as the Steelers continue down the stretch. Even if Russell Wilson doesn't sustain the level of play and play as well as he has been the last couple of weeks, understanding how to win in the margins like that with those little veteran tricks that quarterbacks do, I think is going to be really important. And forgive me if this was already said, but when both the Ravens and Steelers have played each other and they've met with 500 records or better, the Steelers are 4-0 in those contests. So this is a big, big matchup and a big test for a Ravens team that needs to fix its defense, but also looks like an absolute juggernaut on offense, and a Steelers team that's about as complete as any Steelers team we've seen of the last couple of years.
It's a great matchup, and I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is the 2017 Russell Wilson at this point, but doesn't he kind of have the look again, or maybe just the way he's carrying himself, or maybe the way that ball is, soaring, those moon balls. He is 3rd in air yards per attempt, just about 10 yards since week 7, and his .19 EPA per dropback, that is on pace to be his best since 2015, when he was regarded as one of the best young quarterbacks in football. So everything is working. It was a brilliant move by the Pittsburgh organization to bring him in and then play it the way they did. Even early on, when he's banged up, they bided their time, and then they got him in the place where he was ready to play, and he's become an impact player. So big-time showdown. Love it. Where are we at on the power rankings on this one? Because I love it. The number 3 Ravens against the number 7 Steelers. Let's do it. And big spot for Ian Eagle and Charles Davis. Yummy. All right. Shall we take a break before we move on?
Yeah, it's a luxurious break. We'll just hang out for 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, how you feeling, Mark?
I have a devastating cold. I don't remember. I will not remember any of this show, I'm sure.
I am noting it now, Jourdan. Since you said that, always Mark's Wednesday off days. You never know. So far, what we have on the docket, there was some Star Wars fan fiction that went up on social media. There was whatever that was just now, the setup to this game, haircut, and a airborne illness. That's what we got so far.
Do you,
Wednesday.
Is it lost on what I was sort of calling the Steelers versus Ravens like just a bloody in-house battle where like these two people know each other really well, they've got issues, and they just come and fight in a front yard in the middle of America. Like I think that makes tangible sense.
I track it. I got hung up on like 2 women savagely beating the shit out of each other. It's like schoolboys cheered it on. I guess I couldn't track it at a certain point. I was just. I mean, maybe that, as you're a great writer, Mark, maybe it was just so compelling, the words that it just took me away from the game entirely. You know what I mean?
It was beautifully vivid, Mark. That's what I would
say. It was grotesque, but also I couldn't turn my ears away.
It's just like when you think about football, like in the middle of the night, just in your head, it was like, that's how I feel about these opponents. And I've always felt that way.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Mark in the middle of the night is thinking about 2 large Midwestern women beating the shit out of each other.
Absolutely.
He is.
Mark Wednesdays. Gotta love it. Markula. Listen, Mike, this time last week you were laying on a beach getting a massage, and now this is where you are.
Yeah, how much better is this?
Hey, I enjoy that, Mark. I enjoyed the family, analogy there with that matchup. George Pickens does remind me of like just that badass little cousin in the family. So I do think that fits. Someone also tweeted that Lamar Jackson plays like everyone on the other team is his nephew.
I saw that. That was great.
Yeah, that's a great description of how. So there's some family elements, Mark. I got you. I'm with you. The 2 aunties in the overalls with the fat arms, I'm not sure, but the family part.
I think the play that came to mind I saw that tweet too. The one where he was flushed out of the pocket and then he kind of threw a jump shot touchdown pass and then held his hands up and like it was like a 3-ball. It's like, yeah, that's what you do on Thanksgiving when you're just absolutely destroying your nephews. Like that's the level he's playing at. Can he keep it up against a great Pittsburgh defense on the road? That's a game. All right, let's take a break and then we'll continue to roll through week 11. All right, so while we're wrapping up that Steelers-Ravens preview, I got to say I'm really looking forward to this game and building a pick'em entry on Underdog. Playing on Underdog is super easy. Simply choose higher or lower on player projections, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not the spoiling kind. But I'm looking at some of the lowers for this Ravens offense. I just don't think Lamar is going higher than 234.5 passing yards. Don't see it. So anyway, scan the QR code on your screen to download the Underdog app and sign up with the code HTC and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.
All right, we are back. And by the way, Justin, if you want to jump back in, I want to say earlier in the show, it was mentioned that you had been taking a puff on your peace pipe. And I think it would be fair to you to tell the audience that you're not taking drugs during the show. And also, correct me if I'm mistaken, but you're trying to kick a nicotine habit or a cigarette smoking habit. Is that why you're mid-show doing that? And if so, I'll apologize on behalf of Mark, quite frankly.
Well, yes, that is mostly accurate. Technically, nicotine is a drug. So to say I'm not doing any drugs, I'm not doing any illicit drugs. And yeah, I'm trying to kick the habit, and I'm aware of when I'm going to be on screen or off screen because I control that in the edit. So if I think I'm going to be off screen while we're recording, maybe I'll puff a little. I don't need to be called out on it.
And I'll cue you up on this one, Mark. So you're saying that was a little unfair by the Cess Dog?
Maybe
when
a
you were
little.
off cam. Okay,
Keeping
Mark,
things,
your thoughts?
some things behind the curtain. Well, we know we like to open the kimono on this show, but some things don't have to be open.
Mark?
I mean, this is a person with tremendous issues. And so it's a long season and we're working through it. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, we have another absolute banger to get to, and Jourdan jumped into the dock and
Justin
grabbed
is
it.
on acid right now.
Go ahead, Jourdan.
Okay, you guys, I'm trying something new this time, so stay with me, okay? Number 2, Kansas City at.
If this is two fat women beating the shit out of each other, I'm going to be very upset.
Yeah, Mark really stole my lead there, so that's exactly the direction I was also going to go. This is a little bit of a Sesslerian tribute, though.
Very nice.
Number 2, Kansas City Chiefs at number 4, Buffalo Bills. This is the Nance Romo Wolfson game, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Guys, we have arrived at the point of the NFL season where two types of actually relevant teams exist. The teams that are like the pleasant, artful, and organized box seats at the Hollywood Bowl. And the teams that are in the full metal concert, death-stomping in the mosh pit with no regard for human life. You throw yourself at the writhing throng of bodies that the sound screams through your veins. You see God and the devil standing together, beckoning you onward as you're squeezed into near asphyxiation by the music and the sheer force of the crowd. You feel no pain, no fear, only the roaring chorus, shredding guitars and pounding drums. The undefeated Kansas City Chiefs will play the ferocious Buffalo Bills on Sunday, and two glorious mosh pit teams are en route to an exquisite, brutal collision. Thank you.
Whoa. I like that's a great rejoinder to the Money Mike Sting penalty drop. I mean, these are the two sides of rock. We have the extremes. I love it, Jourdan. And Yeah, so explain who is who in this setup.
They're both mosh pit teams. Yeah, they're both mosh pit teams. And this is going to be so much fun. The Chiefs keep finding ways to win that are absolutely ridiculous. The Bills, similar to what I said about the Chargers earlier, they're starting to reach the apex of their powers. Even when Josh Allen is throwing interceptions, this is a team that's also understanding how to win. And Josh Allen is playing quietly some of the best football of his career. And you just can't ever count out the Chiefs. This Bills offense going against the Chiefs defense. And this Kansas City Chiefs offense really testing the limits of this Bills defense, especially with the 2 new defensive tackles. Kansas City might be without a stable left tackle. Wanya Morris got hurt, and Kingsley Suamataia earlier this season was really struggling and will struggle against Greg Rousseau. It's just there's these little matchups and these really cool head-on collisions in every single part of this game. And this is going to be a big one, guys, determining, I think, the trajectory of a couple of these teams to collide again at the end of the season.
I'm glad you brought up Greg Rousseau because week after week after week, he is a star, first-team All-Pro level player, and exactly like when we talked about if there are people, and I think Mark, you and I are 2 of those people that had doubts about the Bills entering this season, that maybe the Bills the last few years missed their window, and then this would be a team that take a step back, and maybe somebody else would rise in the AFC East, which clearly has not happened. What they did need was someone to internally to rise, and what Rousseau's done to that defense and the havoc that he causes and the play, he's like the Josh Allen of their defense, and he lifts all boats. It's been, I think, an underrated aspect of what's been a tremendous season so far. You can tell the show is rounding into shape. We're in a total mind meld. I have in red lettering in my notes here, I have a prophecy, Greg Rousseau ends this game. He leads the NFL with 33 splash plays and tackles for loss with 8. He's been a total revelation for them. And I do feel like there's something about the NFL regular season. It's like some version of the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals are playing each other every week, it feels like. I feel like we've seen this matchup so many times. And the Chiefs... Cool with me.
Part of me is like, I'm leaning into the concept of the Chiefs just winning games they shouldn't for like 12 years in a row. And I kind of like, all right, I give up. Like, you're going to do it time after time. But I think this is where it ends. I think the Bills, now, they've got issues at wide receiver. I don't know if Amari Cooper will play. You don't have Keon Coleman right now. I think that's a problem. Kincaid is not extremely healthy at the moment. So you're a little shorthanded, but it comes down to Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills defense. I really think Greg Rousseau ends this game. That is my prediction.
Yeah, we still don't know if Dalton Kincaid is going to be able to play. He hurt his knee in the game last week. And it's interesting but you can see that Joe Brady and Josh Allen and this Bills offense, they can shapeshift in different ways because without Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper being limited with the wrist, they shifted into more 12 personnel, so 2 tight ends, but then Kincaid got hurt. And so then they shifted back into 11 personnel with sort of the depleted receiving core that they had. So this is a team that can find different ways to shapeshift on offense despite having limited personnel. Against the Chiefs defense, that'll be extremely tough. Chris Jones, this just sort of smells like a Chris Jones is going to do something unbelievable kind of game at some point. But Mark, I agree with you. You are so right that you might as well be an issue of I Dream in Red, the newsletter. And I think that Greg Rousseau could potentially just absolutely destroy the issues that they're having, that the Chiefs are having at left tackle, because the guy who was starting for you, who replaced the initial starter, the rookie, is dealing with a bone bruise. And so he might play, but what version of him will you see? And then Kingsley Suamataia was just not faring well at all. And this is a game that's ripe for that type of pressure and those types of splash plays. It's also in Buffalo, which makes a huge, significant difference to me.
I'm fully convinced that at some point in Patrick LeVon Mahomes' life, like he made a deal with some higher power to just like, hey, man, I don't care what happens to everyone else in my family. Just make sure I'm successful. I feel like he has sacrificed the people around him, because how do they win in just the most, like, it's not random because it's regular football stuff, but like, man, they are really winning by the skin of their teeth. It feels like I am one of the people though. Feels like I'm in a rare club every week when I listen to Chiefs analysis. I do feel like how they're winning is sustainable because like their line is generally okay when healthy. Spags is just a madman. I think I mentioned before he's like the real version of what Brian Flores was looking like as like the coordinator boogeyman from hell. I do think Andy Reid is just a psycho in a good way, and then Patrick's deal with the devil. I feel like is gonna like it'll run out eventually, but right now, man, those guys are killers. I don't think it matters where they play. They can shapeshift too. I think Buffalo can as well, but like so can Andy. I think the Chiefs, man, is another Arrowhead Invitational we're looking at in the postseason, and it really feels like every team in the AFC had to just build their offseason plan of like, all right, what happens if we go to Arrowhead in January? Can we win? I don't really see anyone being able to do that. Like even if they drop this one, that doesn't change my mind. And yeah, Patrick Mahomes, man, absolute killer. Like just I mentioned, I don't feel bad for him like I do when I watch Herbo because his pass catchers are better. But like it does feel like the degree of difficulty on this season because of the injuries has been a little higher, and his numbers are down, the raw ones at least because of that. But he's still balling. He's still a Game Pass or a NFL Pro must watch on Mondays. Maybe not number one, but he's up there every Monday because he's making some throws and making some plays every week where you're like, damn, this dude, he's still the king.
I'm glad that you said that because it's always good to a reminder that Mahomes, what we're watching, is arguably the best player ever at the position, or certainly on the short list in his prime, and keep that in mind. And I get it. Listen, I'm a guy that was on the ground floor for every bit of misery of the Patriots dynasty. And it got to the point where you're just hitting out and you're like, how do they keep on catching all these breaks? But the Chiefs are not lucky. The Chiefs have one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. They have one of the best head coaches ever. They have arguably the best defensive coordinator. They have dogs on both sides of the ball. And because they've been in so many close games, both in the regular season and in January and in February, they almost always win the crucible moments in big spots, and other teams just can't close them out. That is not luck. That's just what makes the Chiefs the Chiefs. However, the Bills have to seize this moment. Huge psychological impact, I think, this game. Home field advantage. You mentioned the Arrowhead Invitational. If they can win this game, they're a game back of the Chiefs, and they would hold the tiebreaker. So you just need the Chiefs to stumble once, and it could go through Western New York. And also, if you can win this game, I feel like the Bills, they'll feel a lot different about when, to me, the inevitable happens when these teams meet again in January. Mm-hmm. If you could beat them now, you could tell yourself, we're going to beat them again. So I can't wait to watch this game. That's could be the game of the year, and I think they're going to play once more, and that will be exciting too. Justin.
Let's close this out with an amazing stat about Patrick Mahomes as the starter of the Chiefs. The Chiefs under Mahomes have been underdogs 14 times. They are underdogs to Buffalo on Sunday, 2-point underdogs, 15th game of Mahomes' career as the starter. Let me guess. An underdog.
Before you give the data, I'm going to guess they have never lost in this scenario.
They have lost, but they have a pretty dang good record. The Chiefs are 11-3 straight up as the underdog, and 12-1-1 against the spread. So I would not bet against Patrick Mahomes.
Do not. All right.
2 mosh pit teams. I love it. Can't wait.
There you go.
Getting after it. Big time.
Oh, Jordan's intro reminds me. I should tell a story when we're done recording of what I think about when I hear that music. It goes back to my years when I was a janitor in Pullman, Washington during college.
Oh my God, this sounds like a Patreon special.
Yes, it does.
Money Mike, the janitor years. All right, let's move. Speaking of Money Mike Dugar, what is the game you cannot wait to watch?
The game I cannot wait to watch is one that I will be getting paid to watch.
Very nice.
I hate picking the Seahawks sometimes, but like the slate wasn't that great, to be honest. Seahawks at 49ers is my game I can't wait to watch. The Seahawks are number 19 in the power rankings of record. The Niners are number 8. Might be a little low now I think about it. Might have to.
What about 19
that.
for Seahawks? What do you think? You think that's fair where they are right now?
Yeah, Seahawks aren't very good. I mean, me and Jourdan just watched. Well, I guess Jourdan has watched another game since, but we were just in Seattle watching them. It's very clear which team was better. The Seahawks are really good at just like finding ways to not be good enough. You know, they're like the opposite of the Chiefs. The Chiefs kind of create their own luck. I think that's kind of what you were getting at, Dan. And the Seahawks kind of create their own bad luck. They're just undisciplined. They're third in the league in offensive penalties. I think top 5 in total penalties. They're like third in penalty EPA, which basically measures the impact of those penalties. So it's not as just they're getting a lot of flags, because some don't matter, like a delay a game before a punt, for instance. But like a holding that negates a touchdown is way worse. You know, the Seahawks are doing more of the latter, and it's just hard for me to believe in an undisciplined team in that regard, one that doesn't have an identity on either side of the ball. But this is like the Seahawks are very much like the Bengals, I think. Like, you're a loss away from getting forked. I feel like, I don't know if mathematically how you guys would go about the forking of the Seahawks if they lost, but they already have, according to our athletic projection model, only like a 6% chance of making the playoffs, 3% chance of winning the division, which is probably the path to making the playoffs because of how good the NFC North is and how many wildcard teams they're projected to send. So if they lose this game, the Seahawks would be 4-6. They'd be 1-5 in the conference. They'd be 0-3 in the division, having been swept by the 49ers. You know, so yeah, this is it. Just like the Bengals game is, this is it for the Seahawks. You're kind of done if you lose this.
Now you got me thinking that we should have forked the Seahawks when we had the chance. We had our final fork committee convening yesterday or on Wednesday, and they have to win this game. And I don't know if they do win this game because, Mark, I think, you know, I was trying to figure out my fearless predictions because I'm on a losing streak. And one of the ones I had in mind that I shied away from because maybe it wasn't quite fearless enough is that CMC came back and played well in his first game back. I think he goes nuts in this game against Seattle's defense and goes for $150 and 2 scores. And I think you're going to get one of the talking points coming out of Week 11 is, here are the 49ers. And the Seahawks are just catching them at the wrong time.
Well, I think like the Seahawks always seem to be, to me, catching the Niners at the wrong time. It doesn't seem like they match up well with this particular team. And, you know, Mike, you're the subject matter expert on the Seahawks, but I see a team that struggles to stop the run. And so having CMC back in there right now, specifically against the Seattle linebacker group, and George Kittle, throw him into that mix too. You're right. I think this is a time where it's like, are we going to look at the Niners differently over the next couple of weeks where it's like they're getting healthier? It's a huge development that Ricky Pearsall played the way he did last week. Like I just kind of see more weapons coming into view. It is important that DK Metcalf, it sounds like he'll play. He was a full participant in Wednesday's practice. Like, I like having him back, but they're going to hang around in every game. Like, Seattle feels like they just keep they make these games interesting, but I don't like the matchup against the Niners. I can't get out of my mind. I think it was a Thursday night game late in the year in December 2 years ago when the Niners just hammered them physically. And I just think this team's kind of half baked and half there. And it's year one of a new coaching regime. They seem like a new coaching regime. They just seem new. And you're going up against a very experienced team. And so I'm all over the Niners in this one.
Dan, I had a question. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while. Is there, like, what's the opposite of the kicker club? Is there a place that's the opposite? Genuine question. Is there a place that is the opposite of the kicker club? Is it like a room and it just, you open the door and you see... So like a Skid Row
type vibe for kickers? Is that what you mean? Like,
or like it's just like an empty room with like white walls and you open the door and it's just Deebo Samuel sitting there staring at you? Like,
so like a Saw scenario where Saw meets an insane asylum or something? Is that what?
Perhaps.
I haven't thought about it because I, as I've remarked many times in the show, I have much empathy for kickers and how difficult their job is. So I would never want to put them in that place. And quite frankly, shame on you for making their lives even more dreadful, Jourdan. So no, I don't have anything like that in my mind.
Jake Moody is knocking on the door over there, though. If such a place does exist, I mean, that's tough. I agree with you guys, though. This is like one of those games where you just think, I mentioned last week the 49ers, it's like walking into a cave in like some fantasy movie, and you suddenly an eye opens at the end of the cave, and it's like this giant behemoth that's just been lurking under the surface, ready to rear its head. Like, that's what's happening. I think you can always kind of count on the 49ers for that. They did look disheveled, sloppy, and just like undisciplined in several factions last week. But this is the 49ers, and they're a wagon, and they know how to be one when it counts.
All right. Let's move on. The game I can't wait to watch. I was, last in the dock, so I can't tell you that. Like,
Dan, like, can you actually? Because sometimes you just get kind of hosed if you pick fourth in this.
Yeah.
Late in the year when the slate's a little shaky. Like, can you actually not wait to watch? Can you actually not wait to see this game? Or
I can say that I can wait to watch it. I can wait. So there is some built-in dishonesty, but like the mechanics of the show dictate I must have one. Yeah. And I did go with the Packers, number 10 in the power rankings, traveling to Soldier Field to face the Bears, number 22 in our power rankings. And, I do think it's a compelling game. I think there's a lot to keep an eye on here. Shane Waldron, speaking of Money Mike and his Seahawks ties, the former OC of Seattle, now the former OC of Chicago. And I saw you comment on this on Twitter. Mike, the Bears typically, when a man loses his job, there's a level of, speaking of empathy for that man, and you say the right things, and you let the week play out and the news cycle play out, and you transition, even if you didn't think very highly of him or what his potential was to lead the team in terms of structure of their attack. However, you heard multiple players on the Bears speak into microphones about Shane Waldron's failings, veteran wide receiver Keenan Allen. Here's what he said. I would say just probably he was too nice of a guy. Oof. I've had girls say that to me before.
Not good.
Never good. I think during OTAs, training camp, he kind of fell into a trap of letting things go. Oof. Not holding people accountable. Oof. Obviously, those things lead to a slippery slope. So, Waldron,
one note, Dan. I think the great thing
yes.
that you did there, you sounded like Keenan Allen. Like you really dove into your thespian angle there. So, well done.
Is that true? Okay, I would not think that we would have a connection there, but that's cool. Not my intention. But anyway, so Waldron's out, and who is in? They have Thomas Brown play calling now for Chicago, and we see if it will make a difference. And I think obviously the Packers are a favorite here, even though they're on the road. But Mike, you have a Chicago team that I think it's more than the play caller. I think the quarterback has to play better. Obviously, there has to be more ingenuity on the offensive side of things. But it's not. I don't think it's going to be a magic potion here getting rid of Waldron. But I guess you can't disagree with the move at this point either. It's a bit of a Hail Mary for their season.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for Shane. He's just getting shit on all week. DJ Moore shit on him as well. I think Travis Homer, one of their running backs, is a former Seahawk player, so he's been with Shane in both spots. I think he was a little nicer, but also didn't refute any of the things that DJ and Keenan said. Shane, I knew this when they hired him. I went on like a couple Bears podcasts or something and kind of was like, yeah, guys, Shane's cool, but like there's going to be some days where his family should like not go to school and not listen to the radio because he's just that type of coordinator where some days are just going to be bad. And it's going to be very clear that he was the problem. And Bears fans found that out very fast, like before Halloween fast. So yeah, but I felt bad for him because I personally could not find anyone either on the record or off to say things as like damaging as Keenan and DJ just let fly this week. Like even off the record, guys were saying some stuff that he wasn't that good, but it wasn't like that. Like DJ Moore was basically like, yeah, he didn't even make adjustments until halftime. It's like, whoa, damn, man, that's pretty cold. But Dad, I don't think this game is like NBA League Pass worthy. I actually think it'll be kind of decent. I don't think the Bears are a total dumpster fire. I just do think they needed a different play caller. I thought that in January. I think that now. So I actually think this should be a good game. I like the Packers, but I feel like Caleb and those weapons and being at home, I think they got a chance to make this competitive in a division that's just been really good this year.
Well, they have to try to, hassle Jourdan Love, who I love watching Jourdan Love play football. He has some incredibly high level play, but also this season he's pretty affected by the blitz. He's last in EPA per dropback against the blitz, according to True Media. He's turned the ball over when pressured specifically with extra pass rushers. So Matt Eberflus, kind of quietly lost. He's in ass-saving mode right now. And so I think he will try to play a maybe more aggressive ball hawking defense like we saw at the beginning of the year. Not having Jaquan Brisker really hurts them. That's a scary situation. He's still out. He's missed the 5 games now, and he'll be out for a 5th straight game with the concussion and the concussion protocol. That's scary. But this was a solid defense. They just need some help as well from their offense. Now, I covered Thomas Brown in Los Angeles, and you heard that the players, even at the beginning of the year, were talking about how they wanted to be coached harder by Shane Waldron. And clearly that was not something that they received if their comments are like this. You are not going to have that issue.
Not to interrupt you, but like as someone who covers teams, what does that mean when players say we want to be coached harder?
Well, to me, that means usually when I hear that means that they want somebody who is going to really push them, not necessarily to get in their faces and to be aggressive, but to really push them on the details, to point out mistakes and issue fixable corrections, but to talk through problems in a very high energy, fast paced way that's assertive. Someone who walks into a room and knows their stuff and is going to tell you exactly what the plan is. And you can talk about the plan, but they know that plan will work, and they are going to be adamant on sticking to the little details. I will tell you, you're not going to have an issue about wanting to be coached harder by Thomas Brown. Like, he is somebody who, in covering him, this is why Sean McVay loved having him in the building. He is someone who is a stickler for those types of details. He is very, very honest. He's going to tell you exactly how he thinks you're playing and what you guys can do to fix it. Now, he's got some problems in terms of the issues that they're having right now. The offensive line is an issue. The receivers are actually, if you go and you watch some of the All-22, they're having some issues getting open. That also, layered route concepts was an issue. It's like certain times receivers are running the exact same pattern, just like stacked over the top of each other. That's not very helpful for the quarterback. So that's going to be an issue. What I think you're going to see from Thomas Brown in order to assert and to really, put some teeth back into this offense, to help the quarterback, to protect the line, to protect and get the receivers resettled and resituated in different concepts, and a little bit more of the creative pre-snap and at-snap stuff. You're probably going to see him establish the run. One thing with his background as a running backs coach that he is going to, I know he's a pass game specialist there, but one thing as a former running backs coach that he's going to want to do is establish the run and get physical. And I think if they can do that, this will be really, really good for that team and for that building dynamic.
I love that answer, because it's like, I want to know what, you go and change the coordinator and the play caller, well, what's actually changing about the offense? It's not a new playbook, so you've got to come at it from a different angle. It could be somewhat of a new playbook, but if you're Thomas Brown, you were in Carolina a year ago dealing with the meltdown of Bryce Young, and now you're here with Caleb Williams, who, outside of Deshaun Watson, statistically, analytically, has been the worst deep thrower in the league. And we talked about Caleb Williams walking into the best situation of any of the rookie quarterbacks in terms of the pieces around, and it's not translating. And for me, part of it is from a more global angle, because Matt Eberflus could be fired in weeks. We don't know, probably after the season. It just seems like a stirring example of why you don't get a defensive. It's tough for defensive coordinators to get head coaching jobs. And I think this is an example of that, because who's in charge of this? You're flipping through play callers. You're a rookie quarterback, which is essentially the beating heart of the future of this organization, is hearing whispers that the team players on the team wanted Tyson Bagent to start now, that they were ready to have Caleb Williams sit. And so it is a very chaotic time. And I don't think that Thomas Brown, I love the personality note on him, and that does help, and that's what they want. But you're going to ask someone to come in and change everything. I think this game is a must watch for how does it change in the next couple of weeks? How does it change? Because you've got the future of the organization sitting in the balance, and your quarterback who is getting beat up week after week behind a terrible offensive line. That's not just fixable with a play caller.
Caleb Williams, to that point, he has not thrown a touchdown pass since week 6. We're entering week 11. He is 32nd in completion percentage, 33rd in sack percentage, which is partially obviously on the line, but partially on the quarterback. And his last 3 games, negative EPA every game. So he's been in the tank. It's Bryce Young bad, last year. And it's
right.
We're not talking about that. It's Waldron that takes the fall, and Eberflus taking the heat. And now Caleb Williams, if he doesn't turn things around, it's going to be on him. So big game for the number 1 overall pick, but comes with the territory. You got the number 1 pick. Now you got to step up. All right, let's take a break, and then we jump in the gravy boat.
Are you playing an underdog yet? There's so many ways to get in on the action, whether it's higher, lower, pick'em entries, daily drafts, or season-long tournaments. And it's not just the NFL. The NBA is back. You've got NHL, college sports, so many options. So don't miss out. Just scan the QR code on your screen to download and play on the Underdog app. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, sign up with the code HTC, our show, and you can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Make the most of your sports fandom by playing along on Underdog. For our U.S. audience only.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
See, Money Mike, it might have been cool being in Jamaica, getting a couple's massage, but probably pretty cool to hear that again.
Oh no, I got a really bad back. That's kind of how it sounded when she hit that part during the massage. That was great. And like I said, it was my first ever massage, man. And I fly a lot, so yeah, that was much needed.
Was it couples, or did you have your own area?
No, it was couples. I actually I really wanted to get them separate so I could actually not get a massage and go leave the resort and try to get her a birthday gift, because by the time this drops, it'll be my wife's 30th birthday. But they were couples massages, so I was like, damn, all right, we got to do it together. It's too suspicious. So yeah, we did it right next to each other. And I found a birthday gift later, but yeah, great.
Man or woman on the massage for you?
Was it? I think it was a woman. It was a woman. Yeah. I had my eyes closed, chilling.
You had to ask yourself. You weren't sure. You weren't sure.
He knew.
Because they put you face down in the little towel thing, and then I brought my Bluetooth speaker in there because I listen to music with everything that I do, and I just had that thing cranked to one of my playlists, and I was just like totally zoned out.
Like hairy Robin Williams knuckles dragging across your back. No,
thankfully,
why is Robin Williams getting killed?
Well,
did you also pick up Mark's shark tooth earring while you were out getting a gift for?
I hope so.
That's why he couldn't. He had to do the couples massage. Yeah.
Even in I was in like the fancy designer stores and everything yesterday looking for my wife's gift, and Mark, they had nothing for you. I'm sorry. I looked. I spent like an hour, and I was late picking up my daughter yesterday because I was looking for gifts for you and my wife yesterday.
I think your intentions
I went 1 for 2.
Pure. Your intentions are pure, and I really respect it.
You know what I have my eye on for you, Mark? For Christmas,
I can only imagine.
I'm going to get you the Ferrari hat with the driving gloves.
Well, go do that.
All right, here we go. Gravy boat. Justin, go.
All right, first up in the gravy boat, Falcons at Broncos. 2 teams fighting for playoff positioning in separate conferences. This is the last game we have to talk about today that doesn't feature at least one forked team, if not 2 forked teams. Both of these teams are coming off of late game missed field goal induced losses from a week ago. Their season could very well depend on how they respond.
Yeah, I've been selling the Falcons short at times this season, and then they find a way. This will be a tough challenge at Mile High against a Broncos team that I know they're coming off 2 losses in their gut check games, but obviously very nearly stole one from the Chiefs, or really the Chiefs stole it from them with the blocked field goal. So with Bo Nix continuing to thrive, I like the Broncos in this game. You know what else? I like this sound from Raheem Morris. Younghoe Koo has had a tough season and is coming off a brutal game where he had 3 misses. But Mr. Youngry himself, Raheem, said, I'm not thinking of moving away from this guy. And football maybe isn't so different than basketball.
I got Steph Curry on my team, and he's having a slump right now, or a slump in that day. I'm not moving on from Steph. because he missed some threes. The same way they shouldn't have moved on from his other light-skinned buddy. But
his other light-skinned buddy.
Is that a Klay Thompson reference?
Klay Thompson ref in a big spot.
Oh, that was great sound. Oh, that was great. Nice little light-skin reference.
Raheem is awesome.
I love that. You know, so you guys didn't talk about gambling last week. It doesn't sound like very much.
No.
But gambling kind of. Well,
you know, I'm a degenerate.
The gambling dehumanizes the players a little bit, and I feel like there's nothing we can really do about that. But last week was a really great example. If you just Twitter searched or Google searched Young Wei Koo yesterday or last week, oh boy, it was bad. It was Falcons fans too, but it was a lot of people who had bread on that young man's leg, and he let them down. I hope he hope he took a mental health break last week and hits like 3 field goals this week in Denver.
Yeah, I do too. He is a great kicker. He's just going through it right now, and I'm with Morris on everything he said there, including Klay Thompson should have stayed with the Warriors. All right, let's move on to Miami. Next.
Steph did beat Klay like 24 hours after Morris said that. All right, next game, Raiders at Dolphins.
Yeah, but like they're an all-time pairing. And
they are.
And Klay, maybe he's a reduced player with all the injuries, but sometimes you just want to see guys play their whole career together. And here's Justin, the Mavericks fan. He's doing his Mavericks fan thing.
While we're on this topic, quietly, I wanted to shout out Mike Dugar here because that was your Kawhi to Justin Herbert comp, just personality-wise, I think was quietly like one of the best comps I've ever heard in that regard. So
very nice. Man, it's a big NBA episode.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, here we go.
Play NBA pick'em entries on Underdog. Okay, Raiders at Dolphins. Coming off a huge Monday night victory and now facing a winnable game at home, can the Dolphins take care of business, keep themselves in the hunt, and find success in November and December? On the other side, Antonio Pierce has once again named Gardner Minshew his starting quarterback. But I am wondering if this is just so that he gives himself another opportunity to bench him.
Yes, that's what I'm looking forward to now. Antonio Pierce is a terrible head coach. God bless him. Great linebacker. Going to be a good defensive coordinator for somebody next year. Not a good head coach. And I think he's going to bench Gardner Minshew a minimum. I'm going to put the over-under at 2.5 more times. Let's listen to Pierce naming Gardner the starter yet again.
Listen, when we brought in Gardner, we expected, obviously, the play that we had seen in the past. And, you know, at some point, you got to give a guy confidence. And
at some
there's been
point,
times, obviously, with
turnovers
and other things that have taken place where we made decisions to, either put him on the bench or go with another quarterback. But this week, I felt like, Gardner gives us the best opportunity to move forward. And he has every opportunity to go out there and help us get to a win.
All right.
Yeah, give the guy confidence by benching him over and over again. That'll do.
No, he's like, it's at some point you have to give him confidence. I would try to do it before Thanksgiving typically when I'm the coach, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that Gardner's played like his worst ball of his life with the Raiders. He was never this bad in Jacksonville. He was never this bad in Philly, briefly. And he was never this bad in Indianapolis. He wasn't good necessarily in those stops, but he was never this. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they're playing musical chairs over there with Antonio Pierce might pick Justin to be quarterback in 2 weeks for all we know, man. He doesn't know what he's doing over there with the most important position on the damn team.
Justin would not pass the drug test, but let's start there. But
yeah, sometimes you have there are correlation between your life and an NFL player's life, and it's like, yeah, when your boss, you could tell your boss doesn't believe in you, or he makes decisions that seem to undermine what you see as like your potential. It makes your job harder. Like, it can go one of two ways. You could either like stick it up the guy's ass, which I've done. Or you can lose all confidence and then just be, you essentially get run. I knew that was happening. But I think Gardner Minshew is a guy that probably could use that encouragement, and he has not gotten it in Vegas. On the Dolphins side of things, Mark, I think you tried to fork the Dolphins on Wednesday, one of your unpopular picks. If they don't beat the Raiders at home, I don't know what to say. They're favored by 7 here.
No, this has to happen for them. I did try to fork them and the Bengals and was like soundly rejected by the other individuals on the show. On another Antonio Pierce note, and I get where he's coming from here. It's not really a critique. It's just interesting where we are. He was the coach that came out and basically said on the Tua front that he said, I'll be honest, I'd tell him to retire, after he was concussed. He was lobbying for Tua to be out of the league and gone. And now he may be the reason that Antonio Pierce is soon out of the league in terms of his current position. One thing about Gardner Minshew, it's to your point, Mike, about him playing better in other places, this is one of the worst rushing teams of all time. In terms of EPA per rush, through 10 weeks of the season, in the past 25 seasons, they rank 798th out of 798 rushing teams. And so when you've gone into the campaign with a shaky quarterback situation and you're playing musical chairs, it's the environment. And Antonio Pierce has done nothing and has no answers for what's happening around Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew could be a replacement level quarterback or even better, but he needs to be surrounded with the right environment, and this has just been a bad marriage.
Next, Vikings at Titans. Sam Darnold is looking to bounce back after a terrible performance a week ago, but in one where his elite defense stepped up and had his back. He will have a chance to bounce back here against a team in the Titans that is potentially going to be without their top 3 cornerbacks, and the Vikings also get to take on a quarterback on the other side of the field who has struggled with turnovers. As a Titans fan, I'm very wary that this could be an absolute bloodbath.
It could go the other way too. Now, I'm glad you pointed out that they're having injury issues, but Darnold has been very mistake prone in recent weeks, and especially in the worst place on the field. Jourdan, he's been mistake prone in the red zone. Last week it was kind of a apocalypse in terms of trying to force it to Justin Jefferson with disastrous results. So I think this is a big game for Darnold. I think it's a big game for the Vikings in terms of how we see them. Do they get healthy against a bad Titans team, or do they struggle on the road? And then you really start to ask questions about what their ceiling actually is.
Yeah, we knew this was coming at some point. There was going to be some struggles probably after the first 8 games or so with Sam Darnold. It's just a pattern he had showed in the past, even after positive starts. What I think was really important about the way that they constructed not just this team, but sort of the scheme and the dynamics of the offense around him. And then also the way that the defense, especially last week, stepped up and just basically won the game for them. I think that this is a floor-raising situation where you knew he was going to kind of flirt with the floor a little bit at a certain point through the season, and how high can you actually raise that floor to make sure that it's not an absolute catastrophe when it happens. The injuries are concerning, but I just think that Minnesota just has felt like a playoff destined team, a team of just this unchecked optimism and belief in itself and each other, and they sort of have struggled. They've hit their adversity, and I think that this Titans team is a team against whom they start to pick those little shakiness up and start to roll again.
Will Levis played pretty well last week, but now he's got another big assignment here against Flores and the Vikings. Let's see if he could stack something. This is his really last audition for any chance at a future in Tennessee. Next,
Colts at Jets. In one of the strangest sagas of the season, Anthony Richardson is back as the starting quarterback for Indianapolis. They need a win to stay in the playoff hunt after narrowly avoiding a forking on Wednesday, but the Jets are favored in this game as New York tries to find a way to salvage any type of meaning from this nightmare season.
See, again, this feeds into my disconnect with the football cognoscente. Why is it weird? What did you call it? A weird saga?
Strangest saga. Just the fact that it's he's not ready to play, so we're going to let him sit. Oh, but 2 weeks later, he's ready to play suddenly.
No, it's not necessarily even that. It's okay, the young quarterback sucked, so they went to the old quarterback who's had success in recent years. Didn't quite work out, so now they're turning back to the young quarterback. I think it all checks out. Am I crazy? Doesn't that make sense?
I think it makes them and I have been as pro Shane Steichen as I am about almost any coach in that division or in the AFC. And it's like they suddenly look like they don't have a great plan. Like they just don't. And it's like,
why do you have to stay with Joe Flacco for the rest of the year just because you turn to him?
You don't have to, but like whatever your reasoning was, I think to Justin's point, whatever your reasoning was to sit. This is like the 8th rookie quarterback. There's like all these quarterbacks all around the league getting benched and then brought back in. It's like, it just seems unfocused. And whatever your reasoning was to sit Richardson, well, why now, a fortnight later, are we circling the wagons and saying all of that has been proven unnecessary?
And on top of that,
I'm sorry, guys. I'm with Dan on this one. I don't think this is weird. I think the quarterback who you want to be the key to your franchise didn't get enough time to actually get developmental reps in the offseason because he was dealing with an injury, and so he wasn't getting the training with the biomechanics specialist that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Josh Allen used as well to kind of get to playing, to throwing the ball better and more efficiently. Didn't get that time. You don't have that time when you're in an NFL building because nobody in that building is actually keyed in on development. It's all game planning and situational mastery and being a quarterback in the NFL instead of actually developing as a thrower. That quarterback played awful. He was benched. The quarterback you brought in to try to play better was awful. He effectively has now been benched. You don't have anybody else. It's just, it's like when we talked about Stefanski and the Browns, we were like, man, doesn't this guy know football at all? Can't he see how terrible this product is? Well, yeah, similar with Shane Steichen. He knows what bad football looks like and what good football looks like. I just don't think that you're in a position to keep playing the guy who is also awful. Like, it's just, to me, this actually makes sense. It's not weird.
It turns into like a mental health break in the what did you call it? Biomechanics? Is that what you said?
Yeah, biomechanics is the study of becoming a more efficient thrower. Yeah,
yeah, that's good too. It gives them a blow. Ideally, Flacco plays better. They win the games, and then you could decide whether you want that break to last longer. I don't know, Mike. Where do you come down on it?
I do think there's value in. There's nothing wrong with adjusting in the face of new information. Just generally as a principle. Now with the quarterback. The new information has to be like pretty solid for you to adjust because he's the most important player on the field. I do think it was a little weird only thing weird about it for me was Steichen just saying Joe's our guy for the rest of the season no matter what. Which I think he said like
that's what I was going to say. Like not even a week and a half ago, 4 days ago, he said, until I say otherwise, Flacco is the starter, which I guess he's saying otherwise, but why would you say that on Sunday instead of just doing the coach? We'll evaluate. We're going to evaluate.
I'd add on to that. Like, what happened biomechanically in the last 8 days? Like, I understand.
No, don't mistake me. That's an off-season training program that he didn't get to have. Like, don't mistake my point there. That this is like, again, I think it's what Mike said, adjusting in light of new information. And I didn't take it as rest of the season when he said until I say otherwise. It just meant until I say otherwise. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like totally missing this because I just didn't think it was strange that he changed his mind again when the quarterback he sent in for the rookie was also playing atrociously.
All right. Mm-hmm. We're all on the same page. Well, we're all on different pages, but we all think we're right, and that's very important. And the only thing we'll say about the Jets is that Aaron Rodgers, in one of his things, probably on McAfee, said that he wants to play next year, and I just don't know where he fits in there. Probably what would happen here is Rodgers will sign with, I don't know, the Colts, and then he'll be an MVP candidate next year. Probably what will end up happening, but I don't think there's a path forward with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I think it's time for the Jets to say uncle on this failed experiment. All right, next.
Aaron Rodgers also cited a fake made-up Twitter stat on McAfee, which was hilarious. Okay, next. Jaguars at Lions. Children, look away. This could get ugly.
Yeah, Jourdan, in 30 seconds or less, give us a preview of this game, Jourdan.
Touchdowns. Jared Goff rebounds from 5 interceptions last week. Brian Branch is a badass. Darius Smith maybe plays this week. He's always really strong in the backstretch of the season. I'm assuming the Jaguars are forked. I believe they've been forked a long time ago. Detroit bounces back in a big way. Jared Goff bounces back in a big way. The Lions keep rolling. Ding.
And Mac Jones is I think QBing again. I think Trevor Lawrence are going to hold out for another week, which Yeah, the spread here is -14. That if that's not the highest of the season, Mike, it's close, and this could be gnarly for Kevin Harlan.
Was I yelling earlier, guys? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell earlier if I was.
No, you yell whenever you want.
Yeah, you can yell away.
Michael Irvin yelled. He was saying we're losing recipes.
Yeah, right before you told me to get back in the kitchen, Dan.
Exactly. All right, let's move next to let's swim in that gravy boat. It's really lumpy down here.
All right, this one's for Jourdan. Rams at Patriots. Feels like a bad matchup for Drake May, a defensive front that appears to be getting better every week against a struggling offensive line, rookie quarterback looking to bounce back and potentially take out some of the frustrations of last week's loss on this poor Patriots team that is coming off of a stretch where they've won 2 of their last 3 games.
Yeah, I've loved watching this defense grow up on the ground floor. The little details that they've put in, they've attacked the defense and just basically developmentally, layer by layer. They didn't do sweeping changes or adjustments. They did, okay, in weeks 2 and 3, and 4, let's think about specifically the D-line and how we can get those guys better. Then they attacked the secondary. How can we get those guys better? And how can we structurally change what we're doing to maximize the personnel we do have? And then the middle of the field has started to come along in the last couple of weeks, particularly Omar Spates emerging as a young blossoming playmaker for this team. Christian Roseboom coming off the best game of his career. The Rams offense, I think, is reason for extreme concern. They're not doing anything well. They're not playing well up front at all. They completely overthought their offensive line decision-making when they did get guys back and healthy. They took out the 2 guys on the interior that were playing well as replacements, and then they threw in the 2 guys who returned, who are great players, but perhaps the timing was really wrong to do that when you had such continuity for the first time all season. Matthew Stafford did not play well last week. You kind of can see when the defenses like Miami's take away the middle of the field, what the issues are here with this passing game. They have not run the ball well. They look slow and tired. And the thing about New England's defense that could present to be like pretty problematic for the Rams this week is that they're 5th in limiting points allowed, 17.3 per game. And they're getting the quarterback to the ground when they get pressure. The Rams have struggled to score in the first halves of games all season. They haven't scored a touchdown in the first quarter of 8 of 9 games, and they've been completely shut out in 5 of their first quarters this season. This is a really struggling offense right now.
And, this one has potential upset written on it for me. You got the Rams favored by 5. Christian Gonzalez is, a young star at cornerback, so you figure he's going to neutralize potentially either Nakua or Kupp, and then what do the Rams fall back on? I guess I was really spooked, Jourdan, by that Rams performance on offense. I talked about it on the Monday Night Show. I hated the way McVay played it strategically, and then they did just look a little slow and old and not good.
It's crazy, too, because the defense is young and talented, and they're playing their asses off. And it's almost making the offense look older and worse because they're playing so well unexpectedly on defense, and they have so much energy and so much cohesiveness. And a lot of it is they were less injured than the offense was opening the year. But this does not look like the Rams offense to me.
Even
with everybody back, they look like a shadow of their former self.
Rough. One last dip.
One last dip in the gravy boat. Browns at Saints.
Brown.
Somehow the Browns slipped through unnoticed during our latest convening of the Fork Committee. But fear not, Browns fans, because this was merely an oversight. Unless,
I don't know about that.
Am I stepping out of line?
I nominated the Browns 2 weeks ago, was shot down. I got Sessler getting all over me because I thought the Cowboys could beat the Falcons in a game. And he vetoes his Browns and then nominates the Bengals twice. I mean, what a disgrace, Mark. Well, answer for yourself.
Well, you're part of the disgrace. Like the Cowboys thing is ridiculous.
No.
And you're
what I'm saying is, I nominated the
obfuscate.
Browns. Your favorite little team. You said no, they're going to be great with Jameis Winston, and then you have the gall to get on me about the Cowboys and then not take your medicine about your beloved Brownies.
No, my gall.
No doubt about it.
My gall was well placed on the Cowboys front. I will say that when I refused to fork the Browns, it was after they beat the Ravens. and with competent quarterback play outside of 18 potential interceptions that were dropped. I get that. But it was an oversight. It was a governmental oversight. Justin's right. Had we brought them up this week on the show, there's no way I would have argued for the Browns not to be forked. They are cooked. And to add insult to injury, this is what really annoys me spiritually about the Browns right now, is that Nick Chubb, the beating heart of the team, since he's returned, ranks last in the NFL in EPA per rush. Now, this is someone that I thought had the spirit of Jim Brown in him. And I want to see, I think for me, it's if you're a Browns fan, it's what's up with this specific player? I don't care about wins or losses at this point. I'd rather they get a high draft pick and take a quarterback than try to squeak out meaningless victories in November and December. Go find out what's up with Nick Chubb, get your draft pick, and then the problem is you're playing Sky Rizzy and the Saints, and so who knows what's happened. They'll probably will win. That's what's the most annoying thing.
I'm looking forward to more Rizzy, and I think here's
Sky Rizzy.
That's my nickname for him, Sky Rizzy, baby.
This will make you feel better, perhaps, Mark, that it is already the trope is already staring us right in the face. That next July there will be glowing write-ups in the Cleveland Plain Dealer and the Athletic and NFL.com about Nick Chubb saying, "I finally feel like I'm back to myself," and a lot of flowery prose about him having a huge season in 2025. Just this year he'll view this as, it was tough this year. I was coming back from the injury.
You're right.
I couldn't trust my knee yet. That's all coming. We've been down this road.
You're right. Correct.
Maybe it's true, though. Hopefully it's a trope that turns out to be great because Nick Chubb is a lot of fun to watch. All right, let's roll right into it. Hit the money mic drop.
All right. How many am I giving today?
We like either the Greg Olson 3-legged parlay or the modified Olson, which is 5 legs, which is more like
modified Olson.
Yeah, the modified Olson is more like the Total Recall woman at the bar scenario, or it's bit of a mutant, but a hot one.
All right, I'm gonna go with I'll go with the modified Greg, which I love. Let's do all game spreads. No player props. Let's go Packers money line, Rams money line, Texans spread, Chargers spread, and Chiefs money line. Is that 5? Yeah, I think that's 5. Yep, let's go with that. My favorite of all those is Chargers spread. Actually, Chiefs money line too. I think both of those teams are legit and are going to get big wins this week.
And for people that are not experts in this field like yourself, Mike, what does money line mean exactly?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I would gladly explain for everyone, including Jourdan.
I know you will.
Yes. Just the money line just means I'm taking that team to win the game outright. Doesn't matter about the points.
Why don't they just say that?
Because it doesn't sound as cool, Jourdan.
Why not call
the
it?
degenerates like it to be a little mysterious.
The weird thing about betting is that the money line has nothing to do with the point line. If you pick a team straight, that means you are taking the points. But if you take a team straight up, that means you're taking the money line again. The lingo is, I think, intentionally.
So Justin has a gambling issue as well, along with the other stuff we've discussed today.
Nicotine, gambling. Women.
Also, you have to just put money in there somewhere. You're dealing with addicts. You have to.
I heard this one specific drop in my head as Mark was talking. I don't know if Justin's going to play it.
Well, stay tuned. You'll have to find out. All right. There you go. Let's go into our fearless predictions. Let's see how we did last week. All right. Money Mike, who did it in absentia, this week will feature at least 3 2-point conversion tries. Is that fearless? Listen, you were on your honeymoon. We're not going to get after you, but you got it. How many were there?
In the first game of the week, there were 2. Baltimore and Cincinnati each tried one. Then we went the entire Sunday without another one until Detroit on Sunday Night Football.
Very good. And so we finished with 3?
We finished with 3 exactly.
Yes, finished exactly
nice.
3. So it was, man, you had to go out on a limb a little bit, And
Well
I don't know
done.
if Justin read the whole thing. It was in the spirit of those teams that there were 3 games the week before that every team had a chance to go for 2 at the end of the game. I think Justin's Titans were one of them, or they were in one of those games. Rams were one of those teams as well. They all had a chance to go for 2, instead kick the PAT to go into overtime. So in the spirit of those 3 games, That's how I came with the number 3 on 2 points.
Gotcha.
That was why. Well, wasn't just an arbitrary selection of a number.
Very nice. And you're 4-6 now, which leads everyone. Gravedigger. Christian McCaffrey goes for a hat trick in his return, 3 total touchdowns. He did go over 100 yards and played well for the Niners, but did not find the end zone. The Zuzzer. Now, I actually, to punish myself once again, as Mark hides from his Browns failure, I embraced it. I said, I'm actually going to punish myself for keeping the Cowboys alive with an impossible fearless prediction. Cooper Rush, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Mingo makes a bingo.
Nope. And
Dallas wins. None of those happened. In fact, Jonathan Mingo wasn't even active. So I don't know. I don't know. I need to get. I think I'm on a six game losing streak in this. So I'm going to get serious this week. Jourdan Rodrigue. Commanders get 3 takeaways versus the Steelers. The Commanders got how many? 2.
Well, there were 2 turnovers. But there were 3 combined turnovers between the 2 teams, so it didn't quite get there.
Sorry about that. And the Cess Dog, this one was great. We get a 400-yard passer and a 200-yard receiver. You got that on Thursday Night Football from Burrow and Chase.
Yeah, I just walked around my house naked for 2 hours after that. It was I'm on fire. So.
And it wasn't even Wednesday.
It's beautiful.
Unbelievable. All right, our fearless predictions this week. Mark, since you have the hot hand, what's yours?
Well, okay, so I know this is going to get it's going to get critiqued, and it's it's not in the spirit of the sport, blah blah blah.
Not a good sign.
But when Nostradamus, and if you go back and read what Nostradamus predicted, it wasn't hey, a bunch of people are going to smile. It's a lot of good stuff's going to happen and a lot of bad stuff too. And so this is negative based. I don't wish this on anyone, but I am predicting that we lose a starting quarterback for the rest of the season this week.
Oh, gross.
I know you wouldn't like it, but
you're not rooting for that.
I'm not rooting for it. In fact, I
hope
I don't get that.
But you are. You're trying to win the trophy.
Correct.
You're rooting to win your fearless predictions, though, aren't you? Or do you not care about the trophy? I mean, some integrity, one way or the other. You're kind of screwed.
Ooh, Justin.
How about you?
He has his revenge.
Torch out.
This is the definition just to make of it clear, for that, by the way.
So your prediction of something that you want to have happen this week is there's a quarterback that suffers a season-ending injury?
It's not that I want it to happen. The prediction is simply that I think I'll get it correct.
What if it's like a Dak Prescott situation where he tears his hamstring off the bone, but they don't announce that he's out for the year? It's just that this guy's status is unclear. Just to make that clear, I don't think that counts.
No, I think to make it more fearless is that we know. We know. But
Mark
how about we know by the time
Good luck, Mark.
we know by the time we have the show this next week. That's fair, right?
But also if a team just misplaces their quarterback, we don't know where he is, we lost him. Because the wording was we lose a quarterback. I don't know, or he just wanders off unsupervised.
All right, how about
Justin
you, Jourdan?
Needs to keep weighing in on this subject matter.
He kind of owed you one there, Mark.
Yeah.
Mine is 4 quarterbacks will throw 3 or more interceptions in a game this week. So still quarterback struggles, but I'm certainly not wishing anyone personal harm or injury.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's just play on the field, and they could bounce back from that. They're not in traction or otherwise seeing their career and livelihood flash before their eyes.
Wives, girlfriends not watching in tears from the stands.
Right.
Rushing down to the locker room to check.
Right, crying
outside the X-ray room.
Because it's not just
sinking down the wall in a state of despondence, in tears, waiting for their person to
not
come
everything
out.
that happens on our planet is flowers and green grass.
Mike, how about you?
To Justin's point, I do think that if there was a quarterback to just get misplaced, it probably would be Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's completely out of the question. If he just disappeared and popped up on the Trump administration as the director of some made-up government agency, that would not surprise me at this point. My Week 11 fearless prediction. You could kind of tell by the games that we went through in the gravy boat. We got a lot of blowout potential this week, so I'm leaning in to that. I think there will be at least 3 games in which a team wins by at least 20 points in Week 11. So at least 3 real old-fashioned beat 'em down this week.
All right, I like that. And I keep on meaning to do the Money Mike thing where you leave yourself a little bit of grace. You know, you say 3 things will happen and then you have the whole league, but I keep on locking in on one thing and it's hurting me. And maybe next week I'll get smart about it. But this week I will say, Mike Tomlin is on a heater, and I think he's going to continue his mastery of the head coaching profession and Lamar Jackson, who will be held under 200 yards passing and 50 yards on the ground. So a very quiet Lamar game.
Hope not.
They did that to Jaden Daniels.
And hopefully he stays healthy and everybody is safe and has a really joyful day.
Not for Mark. That would be a disappointment because that would be one less quarterback who could be hideously injured.
Well, look, I'm trying to
get
out
in pursuit of a trophy.
I'm trying to get out of the basement here, and so you have to be, you have to be authentic and honest in your predictions, and that's what came to me. That's what came to my mind.
Jourdan, thank you very much. Mike, thank you very much.
I won't predict. That's fine.
Oh, shit. I did it again. Oh, man. That's the worst. I hope you don't see this as a sign of disrespect, Justin. It's just the mechanics of the show, and sometimes I forget.
And watching the clock and everything else. I get it.
Gravedigger.
At least one game in Week 11 will finish with 0 touchdowns.
No scoring. Nobody gets into the end zone.
Right. There were a handful of games last week that only had 1 touchdown. Let's take it up a notch this week. No touchdowns in a game.
All right.
Smells like Rams Patriots to me.
We got any weather games? That helps a lot when that happens. Maybe a little too early for some weather havoc, but maybe not. Maybe, Mark, it'll be a violent storm somewhere, and that will really help Justin.
I would love to see that. We need that. It's that time of year. Something weather-wise that's very chaotic.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out the Week 11 preview. We will be back with 2 episodes this day. You're listening to the preview. Thursday night, we have the recap of Eagles Commanders. Friday morning, if you're on the Patreon, get on the Patreon. It's fun. Patreon.com/heedthecall. We'll do our draft for Sunday, and then, of course, the flagship program where we recap every game we just previewed closes things out. Until next time, heed the call.